start universal settings, gear bar 2, stopper 2, 2 red springs, just enough the carriage won't slide around on you, platform and box nearby. If you're on a low reformer or you have limited mobility in your knees, meaning you don't want to flex your knees as much, then put the platform on the edge of the carriage right now. If you're on a low reformer, you're probably going to want to do that because it's a long ways down. You don't have to go all the way down to the ground, but we're going to start sitting, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about next. So you also on the low reformer might put the box up on top of it. Put your feet comfortable, take your arms across your chest, hug your arms across your chest and widen your shoulder blades. Push your lower back back so you're rounding your lower spine back, kind of stretching the back open. And then without hitting the foot bar, open your arms up to the side, send your chest forward and do that a couple times. So round and hug your upper body and open your arms up, lift your sternum, lift your collarbones. And each time you hug across, try to pick a different arm to hug over. So when you're hugging your arms across, you're trying to get your elbows to cross as much as possible. So wrap your fingers around and kind of like walk them around, because my shoulder blade is now here if I do that. If I don't do that, then my shoulder blade is much further back. So you're trying to spread the shoulder blades wide. And again, wrapping your arms across, rounding, yeah, exactly. And then opening however it feels good to you, lifting the chest, lifting the sternum, rounding and opening the sternum. One more time, rounding and opening through your sternum, and then stand up. And we're going to go into a few squats here at the side of the carriage, trying to lower your hips down until you touch the carriage. If you're on a low reformer, that might be too far. So put the box on top or put the platform on top, depends on your range. You don't literally have to touch, but it's a nice goal. And down and up. As you go down and up a few times, each time you stand back up, try to connect to the back of your hips so you're not almost standing all the way to vertical, but you're lifting and pulling up through the front of the pelvis. And a couple more times down and up. Glance down at your knees. Make sure they're tracking well, that your knees aren't falling in towards the midline. Good. And twice more like this. And then you're going to stay in a squat that you can hold and just let your arms swing forward and back a few times. Obviously, don't hit the bar. So like standing version of footwork. And kind of swing your arms. Instead of lifting and lowering them, let the arms swing a little. And then stand all the way back up. Depending on your range of motion, you may want to do this on the platform. You may want to do this on the box, but you're going to stand on the box with one foot, lower yourself to the floor, push yourself back up. So when you're doing this, your standing foot can be in front of the foot that's going down to the floor. You're trying to push yourself up from that leg, finding your balance, and then lowering back down. Yeah, exactly. So if you can, try not to be in this kind of hinged forward position, pretty vertical. If you're having trouble getting the heel down, then you need to offset the foot a little bit further forward. If you're doing it on the platform, that's a totally fine place to do it. You'll be able to get a little more level, and it'll be a little easier in terms of the range of motion to manage. So either place. So you're trying to find in every exercise the version of this that works best for you, which is why I'm giving you layers. Just because you've done lots of Pilates doesn't mean you need to add everything that I offer you. It's dependent on kind of range of motion, strength, all those good things, balance. Try not to put too much weight in the foot as it goes down, And each time you come up, press yourself up, trying to get the leg to not be too zigzaggy. If you don't go all the way down, that's totally fine. Then you're gonna find a balance and hold. Toes should be pointed forward, and just like a half circle of the leg, circling around and around. Good. Kind of a headless Pilates teacher here. And then circle the other way. You can use your arms however they help you to balance. Should feel like that standing hip is working. Your standing leg is as straight as possible. Try not to lean a lot over the leg. So you're trying to use your hip to connect and stabilize. And then we're going to do one more set of down and up on that same side. If you would like to do exactly what you just did, do exactly what you just did. Otherwise, you're going to try to step down in front, push yourself back up, step down to the side, push yourself back up, step down to the back. The front is the hardest one for your knee. So if you've got knee stuff going on, don't do the front version. Just do side and back. Because you've got to take yourself forward and let this knee come back. And find that press to come back up. You can do a squat at the bottom. So you're letting the leg that lands, bend to help push you off. If you lose your balance, squeeze your free foot against the edge of the box. Woo. Usually it helps. Big lunge and find your balance. Big lunge to the side, find your balance. Yeah, try tapping the foot next to the standing foot when you step up onto it. It'll help your balance. Tap, step one way on top of the box, tap, side, on top of the box, tap. Last round in each direction. And then you can turn around to face the other direction or rotate, however you want to get there, to go down and up to the side. Yeah, nice, Anne. So instead of sending the hips way back, I'm trying to get you to be more vertical so it's like a big step. If this is almost the right height for you, you could modify the height by putting the platform nearby. And now you've taken a couple inches. Let's see if you can see this. Taken a couple inches off the range of motion you have to accomplish. That's probably a good range for most of us. Finding that down and up. Just to the side, we're only going to the side, down to the side, press back up. Staying vertical, down to the side, you barely touch the floor, then you press back up. You're not putting weight into the foot that's going down. Yeah, exactly. Just 2 more times. Down and press up, down and hold. Find your balance and circling the leg, vertical through the pelvis and the torso, trying to not let your body lean forward. And reverse. Should feel like the standing hip is working to hold you up. Whatever is helpful with your arms, it's fine with me, including holding on to something. And then pause, kind of tap your foot to the side. And then you're gonna step either forward, side and down and back, or just side and back. Each time you can tap the box, go down into a squat. Now you're doing a bigger range of motion because you're squatting down and pressing yourself up. squat, press. Yeah. As much as possible, try not to go down and kind of transfer all your weight to the floor. It's got to be on one leg, the standing leg, then it's between both legs, then it's back on that standing leg. Good. I would consider these motions kind of fundamental movements. I've given you lots of options to modify the range of motion so that you can make it a lot smaller, a lot less high of a step, for example, like this little platform would be something that I would think all of us need to be able to do pretty well. And so these are good kind of check-ins with some basic movements to make sure we're using the Pilates we're doing to build functional strength. One more round each way. And then you can come back to the edge of the reformer with the platform or the box on top. If you're on a low reformer and need less range of motion, come down into a squat, press back up. Let's just do a couple to get everybody back together. So this is in lieu of our footwork. Dana, see if you can keep your chest up so you don't drop your chest to be as low as your butt. Drop your butt. Yes. And then see if you can go down, and as you come up, lift one leg and find your balance. Down and up. It's kind of playing around with single leg work, double leg work. Transfer of balance. Try as you lift your leg not to hike the hip. Anita, you're really good when you lift the left leg. As you lift the right, try not to hike the hip. Yeah. Less side to side motion, more you're in the center, you're still in the middle. You're in the center, you're still in the center. Minimize the side to side just so that it's not a big stepping side to side motion. Good. And then sit back towards the carriage, stay there, and swing those arms again like we did before. You don't have to go all the way down, just go as low as it's appropriate for you today. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then you can literally sit all the way down or stand up to sit down. Take one of the springs off and sit for your mermaid. You can put a prop underneath your hip if you need. You could have this leg hanging off the side if you need. So that Z sit with your shin up against the shoulder rest. Press the carriage away. One red spring, side bend. Lift back up and counter stretch the other way and lift back up. So now as you go over, try not to just lean and keep the torso the same. You're trying to minimize the amount you push the carriage out so you get a curve through the torso. And up and over. Adding our rotation, so big stretch up and over, set your hand down, slide the other hand out, bend and straighten the elbows. Try to square your shoulders as much as you can towards the floor. And one more time. Straighten the elbows, start to look forward, lift the sternum, lift the chest to bring the carriage in. Then scoop the abs back out to push the carriage away. Slide the back hand towards the front. Turn to face the side, lift all the way up and over. And counter stretch the other way. And set your hand down. Bring both legs on top of each other. Don't fall over. And against the shoulder rest. So we're going to do this kind of odd, different version of mermaid. So the hand closer to the shoulder rest is on the carriage. You're going to push over and try to lengthen your back And then as you come up, I want you to think of going up and over your legs with your head. So let the carriage shove you into more of a side bend. Lengthen through the spine and lift up, nice carry. And this hand on the carriage is just safety, so you decide what it's doing. It doesn't need to do a lot unless you have an emergency. And up and over. And because I'm in my universal settings, if it feels like you need more range of motion, you can always decide that that's not working for you and adjust if you want. It's up to you. But hopefully you're getting some stretch here. And then you're going to go out to the long line and stay there. Feel like you're holding yourself up from the side of the waist. You're connected through the abdominals. Hold there a second. Just make sure you can free this hand up. And then you can set your hand back down and come back up. We'll build on that next time. Swing your legs around and you're going to lay on your side with your head, with your elbow supporting the armpit is near where between the shoulder rest is where your armpit is. So your elbow is on one side and your chest is on the other side. Put your foot in the middle of the bar. Shouldn't feel heavy. One red spring, so it's pretty light. Push out, lengthen through the side of your waist. So the bottom side of your waist lifts up. Let yourself sink into the bottom side of the waist. So this hip hikes up and then push the carriage away again. So you're trying to find the press of the outer hip to push the carriage away. It's not super intense, but it should feel like something's happening on the outside of your hip. You're not bending your knee and straightening your knee. Your leg is staying straight the whole time. You're moving your pelvis. So you're hiking one hip up, then you're pressing it back. Hiking your hip up. Yeah, Melanie and Anita, see if you can keep that leg straight, top leg straight. Yeah, don't worry, we'll get to bend it in a second. And one more time. That length is what I want you to keep as you bend your knee and bring the carriage back in. Keep your heel down as long as possible. Press out again and keep the heel down as long as possible. Find your alignment. Again, it's light, not heavy at all. As you press out and in, you're keeping that sense of length through the top side of the waist. Good. Try to not have the knee dropping down. So you've got to use your outer hip muscles to keep the knee in line and tracking well. If you feel, yeah, that's good. One more time. And then take the strap that's in front of you, put it on your top foot. Find that same sense of reaching and length that we did when it was light. Now it's going to feel heavier. And I want you to do that same motion, bending in, feel long through the top side of the waist, kind of carving out through the back of the hip. Bending in, pressing out. Good. Add to this a little lift and lower of the legs. You push out, lift, lower. Bend in front of you, press towards the foot bar, lift, lower. And long through the side of the waist, trying to feel your outer hip working the whole time. Good. 3 more. And last one. Then bend your leg in one more time towards tabletop. Extend your leg forward. Press your leg towards the foot bar. We're not going to do a million, but it should feel like a little bit of work here. Bend in towards tabletop. Extend your leg towards the front. Press back from that straight leg. Bend in towards tabletop. Extend. Press towards straight. 2 more. Bend in. Extend. Press the leg towards straight. And bend in. Extend. And press your leg back towards straight. Good. Bend your leg in, take your foot out of the strap. You can sit up. You can either sit or kneel facing the side using that same strap. So I want it to be heavier than normal, so we're building strength, but if it's too heavy, feel free to lighten the springs. So holding on to the handles, see if you can do your torso side twist here with this heavier spring tension, using your abdominals to pull yourself around. You decide to switch springs, make sure you are careful how you do it. You always add the new spring before you take the old one off. You also can make it a little lighter by moving towards the shoulder rests. 3 more. Nice. And last one. And then turn towards the back of the reformer. Keep that same strap. Kneeling, be careful kneeling here, making sure you're in control, you're not gonna fall over. You can fold the strap in half or grab up on the metal clip area just to shorten it quickly. You don't have to clip it in or anything, just fold it. It's the easiest way. Make sure you're vertical, slow motion pull of the arm back and reaching forward. So being really mindful here, you don't want to tip over here. As your arm goes back, I don't want your shoulder going forward. So you're trying to expand and open across the front of the collarbone. So push from the back of the upper arm. And it's not about how far you go behind yourself, more about how open you are through the front of the collarbone. Good. I should feel a connection through the back of the shoulder. Nice. 2 more. And then you're going to press your arm back to where you can hold it and try bending and pressing the elbow to long. So it might not be a very big motion. It should feel kind of heavy. So a small bend and a press. Small bend and a press to feel the upper arm. 3. Good. 2. And last one. And then reach your arm back forward. Put that strap back. Put your hands down on the rails. If they're too cold or you don't like touching the rails, you can put the platform on them if you need. Round your back up towards the ceiling and try to press your knees underneath you, scooping up through the abdominals. So you're trying to be in a cat back the whole time, stretching the spine open. Use your exhale and keep the round cat back as you return the carriage. So stay in cat back the whole time. It's not coming from your head, it's coming from your lower back. I mean, the whole spine is trying to be rounded. Good. Anita, see if we can push your lower back up to the ceiling more. Maybe stop against the stopper for a second. Shift your weight forward. Yeah, that's a great shape. And now keep that shape. Yeah, there, that's better. Good. 3 more. And then return the carriage, sit back towards your heels and turn to face the other side in the mermaid position. 1 red spring if you've changed your springs. So shin against the shoulder rest, hand on the foot bar in front of your shoulder. And then start with just a big side bend, trying to curve through the side of the waist. Grab the shoulder rest and curving through the side of the waist. As you do this a couple times, try to minimize the amount the carriage is pushing out so that you're thinking mostly of that side bending. So one side is shortening and the other side is lengthening. Then we'll add our rotation. So you side bend, set your hand down, slide the other hand out of the way, square your shoulders as much as you can towards the floor, and then bend and press the elbows, keeping that shape 3 times. Push out to straight arms, start to lift your spine up into extension, then hollow the abdomen out again to press the carriage back out. Slide the hand towards the front, lift up and over, and do your counter stretch the other way. Good. And then let's bring our shins on top of each other against the shoulder rest. The hand that's closer to the shoulder rest is going to be on the front of the carriage. The other hand is on the foot bar. You push out to lengthen your spine. And then as you come up, you're trying to stretch the side of your waist open. And thinking of your head making a big half moon shape up and over the feet. Lengthen and up and over. And side bend, lengthen. And lift up and over. Do a couple more. Side bend and lengthen out. Beautiful. And up and over. And side bend. Good. And then you're going to press out into that long line. Stay there and just make sure you can move that hand freely, the one that's touching the edge of the carriage, that you're able to support the shoulder. Because next time we do this, we'll add to this. And I just want you to be sure you've got the right spring tension once we add. And then you can come all the way back in. Good. Okay, so then you're gonna lay down on your side with your elbow on one side of the shoulder rest and your chest on the other. You can put your foot in the center, press the carriage out, find one long line through your spine. Feel that kind of carving out of the hip. And then without bending your knee or letting your hip hike on one side and pushing the carriage away, letting it hike a little and then feeling like you're driving through the leg to press the carriage away. I'm just trying to establish that lift of the waist. And then find where the hips are level, bend your knee and bring the carriage in. Your heel probably will have to lift at some point, that's fine. Just keep it on the bar as long as possible and press out and in a few times. Bending to come in, knee is tracking right in line with the center of the hip and the foot. Do two more like this. Finding your alignment, keeping that lift of the side of the waist. Spring should feel pretty light. One last time. And then bring the carriage in, take the strap off the shoulder rest in front of you and put it on your top foot. Once it's on the top foot, press your leg out towards the foot bar, far enough forward that you're not hitting yourself in the face with the rope, obviously. And then tabletop, bend into tabletop and press out to straight. Keep that lift of the waist that we were just practicing so you're not collapsing the waist as you bend and press. You're using that information from the last exercise to help you get better alignment here, which will mean you'll end up feeling more work in the hips. Bend in and press out, add your little lift lower of the leg. Bend in, press out, lift, lower, bend in, press out. Three more, bend in, press out, lift, lower, bend in, press out, long through both sides of the waist, no collapsing in the side. When you're done with that one, you're gonna bend your leg to tabletop in front of you, extend your leg towards straight, and then sweep your leg back. Tabletop forward, sweep the leg towards the foot bar. Should feel like you have to work a bit to keep the height of the foot the same the whole time, so it's not dropping down towards the floor. Kind of like a long bicycling motion. Two more. And then you can bend your leg, take your foot out of the strap, come up from here, either sitting cross-legged or kneeling facing the side. Again, we have our heavier spring on, so if you need to adjust, feel free to, but going in here, side twist. So using your obliques, rotating around. Back of the hips are working to stabilize the pelvis. Abs are working from the front. Help lift you up nice and tall. Good, do a couple more. 4, 3, very nice. 2, and last one. Then turn towards the back of the reformer. Here you have to be even more mindful that you stay vertical so you don't fall over. Just fold the strap over, grab a hold of that and the metal clip. You're reaching up as high as you can on the rope without leaning forward. And find vertical pelvis and then sweeping the arm back and forward. Nice and smooth and controlled, wide across the collarbone. Nice. Keep lifting through the front of the pelvis, trying to get your hips to be as vertical as possible. Wide across the collarbone the whole time. Plow motion here, so the knuckles are kind of dragging back. Shoulders are wide and open. 3 more. And then press back, hold your arm wherever you can. Do a little bend and straighten. So a little tricep press. Doesn't have to be very big. Bend and straighten. Obviously depends on how heavy this feels to you. And small, controlled, bend and straighten. 4, 3, and last one. And then return the carriage. Put that strap down. Let's switch to at least a 1/4 spring lighter. You might want to do a 1/2 spring lighter. So either 1/2 or 3/4, you decide. But you're going to put your hands back out on the rails. And you're going to put both hands on one side. Round your back up towards the ceiling. And same idea, pulling the carriage forward, scooping the abdomen as you return, flexing at the hip joint, trying to find that rounding through the lower back. Obviously, if it's too much lightness, too light, then add a little more. Should feel like more obliques here. Good. Round your back is the main goal. Even if you can barely move the legs. That looks awesome, Anita. And then let's take the hands over to the other rail and round your back up towards the ceiling. Scooping, pulling the knees underneath you. And last 4. Last one. And then return. Bring your hands back out to the railings, both of them, one on each side. Lengthen your spine to neutral. And start in neutral, maybe with a little extension of the upper back, and then round to pull the carriage under and lengthen to return. Just to center yourself back off, rounding into your cat back, and then lengthening. Think of going from tail to head. Tail starts to curl, that brings you into that cat back. The head looks towards the pubic bone, and then tail starts to return the carriage, and you lengthen back out. 2 more. And last one. And return. Good. And then you can come off of here. We're going to put the foot bar down down to the second from the bottom so that it's almost all the way flat, but not quite. And then we're going to start with our long box. Make sure you'll be able to get the straps off the shoulder rests. We're not going to start with them in our hands, but pull them up towards the top so they're accessible. And then I'd say 1 red spring is a good starting point for most of you. And lay on the side, lay your whole body on, slide on the carriage. Start with your hands at the sides of the shoulder rests. Rotate your legs turned out and connect through your glutes. Yeah. And then see if you can float the thighs away from the floor and away from the box enough that you can kind of bring the legs towards each other and apart, towards each other and apart. It's totally fine if they don't come all the way together. The thighs can get in the way a little bit with that, but try not to bend them to do it. Straight legs together, together, together. Trying to feel long through the spine, pulling up on the low abs. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then keep the legs in that turned out position, a little narrower than the edges of the reformer. Start to lift yourself up into extension. So you're lifting your upper body as far as it feels comfortable. Ribs can leave the box and then link them back down and flex forward over the edge of the box. Lengthening through the upper body, lift yourself up into extension, let the ribs lift. This is higher than you'll do when we add the straps in, but it's the right direction of movement. And lifting yourself up, coming up, lifting the spine, and then lengthening back down. Good. Then bring your legs to parallel, no wider than sits bones distance apart. Grab the straps. You can put the loop of the strap around your arm and then hold on to the rope. Start in that flexed forward position. As you start to pull the arms down, lift the sternum, lift the chest into extension, but keep the bottom ribs down and then lengthen back forward. So again, we're using the information from the last exercise to try to feel how can we extend from our upper back versus from the lower back. Get the collarbone to open. We're kind of have a theme today of mobilizing through our upper body, our upper thoracic spine, lengthening and flexing forward. Try to work just as hard going down towards the floor as you are pulling your arms back towards the hips. So you're resisting the return of the carriage. One more time. Then you're going to come up into that extension and stay there. And just take the arms a little bit out to a T and then press back to your hips. To a T, to the hips. To a T, to the hips. 4, 3, 2, last one. And then lower the arms back down, flex forward. We're going to do one more plow to bring ourselves up into neutral. So one long line. And then bend and straighten the elbows. Still feeling a heart going forward and width across the collarbones, but you're not quite in as much extension here. Try to push evenly through both arms. So if one of your arms is a little weaker than the other, it'll kind of, the other one will compensate for you. So try to make it so both are bending and straightening and equally doing their share. Good. Last 2 and last 1. And then return. Awesome. And then you can put the straps in one hand, slide off to the side. And let's keep our one red spring. If you have anything other than one red, let's switch to one red for everybody. Sit up on the box, lots of space behind you. And your feet have to stay down. That's the main rule. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so like ski poles, put your arms through and then hold up onto the fabric part. So just start by rounding back. Feel how light that is. It's not very much help. And then come back forward and sit back up. And adjust anything you need, rounding back. If you were to lay all the way down, I'd want the bottom edge of your shoulder blades to be near the edge and then scoop and come back up. Yeah, if you need to adjust, adjust. And rounding back. Once you get down here, if you'd like to add to this, lift one leg up to tabletop and then the other, and use your abdominals to come up into your teaser. Rounding back and coming up. If you need to scooch forward, feel free to do that. Awesome. So your thighs have to stay still in space as you roll away from them. And then as you come back up, you're trying to keep them where they are. They're on a slight diagonal and they're not literally vertical or you won't be able to get up. Lift yourself up. 2 more. Rounding back and coming up. You can stick with just the small rolling back and sitting back up or the teaser option. Last one. Everybody's gonna find their way to their upper back being on the box. You can keep your feet down or lift them up and then stay here and hold. Go into single leg stretch if your legs are in the air. Reach, reach. And 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bend the legs, teaser to come up, and then set your feet back down. Good. You can put the straps back on the shoulder rest or the hooks so they're out of your way. Come off of here to the side. And let's take the box, like 1.5 springs, I'd say. And we're gonna put the box up against the edge of the foot bar. So it should feel like it kind of sits in there. Yeah. And then put your forearms on here and just make sure you can push the carriage out and in and it's not brutally heavy or ridiculously light. It's somewhere in the middle. Find your neutral spine and hold the carriage where your knees are under your hips. And now I want you to round your back up towards the ceiling, allow the carriage to come in an inch or so, and then lengthen your spine to neutral. Round your back, the carriage will come in a little, lengthen your spine to neutral, it'll go back out to knees under the hips. Yeah, round and lengthen. The front of your legs are working to control the carriage, so you should feel a little bit of that. Round your back and lengthen. One more time. Round, rounding in, lengthen, and then return the carriage. So options here, you could hover your knees off and push out and in a round back, or you can keep the knees down and push out and in, and your knee stretches round back. Good. And then you can take a moment break. And we'll do one more set. Knees up or knees down, round your back, hover, push, pull. Last one. And bring the carriage all the way back in. Awesome. And then from here, we're going to take the box and put it up against the shoulder rests. So put it in front of the shoulder rests, the short way. Yeah. Okay, good. So there should be enough springs on here. The carriage doesn't move around on you. Carefully step in the well. Put your hands on top of the box and just find a plank position inclined. If you're on a low reformer, it's harder for you. Anita, I would stand on your platform just to make you a little higher. Yeah, you might want to as well, Ginge. So if you stand on something, then it'll lift you up a little higher. Yeah, finding this nice plank position. And if you want to add a little push-up, you can bend and press. Is this the hardest place you've ever done a push-up? No, but we're layering in options here so everybody feels like there's something they can do well. Yeah. Try not to lead with your pelvis so your pelvis isn't kind of swinging down to bend your elbows. Last one. And then step your feet flat. Hold on to the edge of the box. Don't move the reformer, but you're just sitting back and just stretching your hips back a little bit. And then one more set of those push-ups. So come back into that plank position. Find your plank, find length. You could stay and hold, or you can do your push-ups. Bend and press. Usually, I like doing push-ups where we're not 100% in the angle where gravity is working the most on us, because then you can focus a little bit more on what's happening in your shoulder blades, making sure your neck is staying aligned, not collapsing between the shoulders, all that good stuff. And then you can carefully step out to the side. I'd recommend keep touching something while you step off, because I trip on the box, or on the straps a lot personally. And then set the box down for a moment. And you can switch to one red spring. Options here, let's put the platform over the springs. It's just nice to have a little extra space. So option one would be to come forward, really far forward, so that you can do a plank position here on the rails. The carriage isn't moving, nothing's happening. Otherwise, you can put your toes down and push out the carriage and just feel like your heels are pushing towards the foot bar, is option two. Option three would be putting your toes literally on the foot bar. Make sure if you're gonna keep adding to this, you have an escape strategy, which putting the knee down is one of those strategies. And then you'd lift the other foot up into your plank. Yeah, nice. Find your plank. If you're on a still carriage, then keep it still. If you want to add a push and a pull of the arms, you can push the carriage out further and pull it back in. Try not to move the hips around. The hips shouldn't sink as the arms come back under you. Yeah. And then bring one knee down to the carriage and sit back into a little shell stretch. Take a breath. We'll do one more set of those. Pick your position wisely here. Pressing yourself out, finding length and holding or pushing the carriage and pulling the carriage. And then you can bring one knee back down and bring yourself all the way back down. Awesome. So since we have our one red spring, we're going to stand right up on top of the platform. Be sure you step up on the platform first, then the carriage. Press your legs out, bend your knees to come back in. Straighten the legs, push out with straight legs, bend the knees, bring the carriage in, straighten the legs. Now try to make it nice and smooth. If you can, stay vertical through the torso so you're not squatting, you're plieing. Yeah. Press out, bend the knees, come in, stand up. Good, one more time like that. Reverse it, bend, press out, straight legs and come in, and bend down, press out, straight legs to come in. Good. Down, out, straighten, and in. 3 more. And last one. And then step onto the platform, turn towards the carriage. Whichever foot was on the carriage, that foot is going to go forward. You're going to bend your knees. You can put your foot right at the edge if it feels heavy and you don't want to slide. And you're just going to push and pull. This is the same movement as our back splits that we've been working on, where we're just trying to move the front knee. Push, pull, push, pull. Good. Whatever is helpful with your arms is fine with me. 3, 2, and last one. And then bring the carriage in and turn to face the other side. Find your nice stable position. Push out with straight legs, bend the knees, bring the carriage in without crashing, squeeze against the stopper as you straighten the legs. Push out, bend, pull all the way in, straighten up. Push out, bend, come in, feel like you push down and up, and then you try to keep that height as you bend the knees so that you're creating opposition the whole time. Press out, bend, in, straighten, out, bend, in, straighten, and then we'll reverse it. So bend the knees to press out, straighten to pull it back in. The moment you straighten your knees, push the carriage out a little further as you straighten them. Bend, press, straighten, and in. Two more like this. Bend, press, trying to stay as vertical as you can. Last one. Bend, press, straighten, and come back in. Turn towards the carriage, standing on the platform. Whichever foot was on the carriage, that's the one that's going to push the carriage forward. Push and pull. You can obviously get down as low as you have Achilles tendon and calf length to bend. So if you can't bend it very far, that's okay. It's just a little bit smaller range of motion. Should still feel like work. Oh, Dana, your head almost touches the ceiling. Perfect. Good. 4, 3, 2. Last one, and then come all the way back in. Turn to one of the sides and then step off the back of the platform. It's just nicer on your knees. And then you're going to grab the box again, put the box up against the shoulder rest in this kind of weird vertical position that the inside of the box is facing the shoulder rest. Yeah. You're going to put one knee as close to the box and shoulder rest as you can. Push the carriage out, open that hip. I find that I'll get a bigger stretch if I bring the foot bar up a little bit higher and don't try to push out so far. So I'm trying to lift my pelvis towards vertical instead of letting my hips be back. Yeah, open and then come back in. Do that one more time. Open the hip and bring the carriage back in, walk around to the other side. Should feel like a big quad stretch. You kind of put your leg in line with where the shoulder rest is. It'll feel like the box doesn't move around on you. Trying to feel as much flexion in this knee as you can handle so that you're getting some opening through rec fem, that quad muscle that crosses the hip and the knee. One more moment here. Push out. And then bring it all the way back in. Stand down at the side. You can take the box and put it away. Last thing. So we're going to bring the foot bar all the way up. Switch to 1.5 to 2 red springs, depending on if you want to focus more on arms, then heavier. If you want to focus more on abs, then lighter. Hands on the bar, head rest up, step up into your long stretch, and then press the carriage out from your plank position, pull it back in. Push out and pull in. Make sure your feet are on the headrest, not the shoulder rest. It'll be too heavy if your feet are on the shoulder rest. I know, Carrie, you're on a different kind of reformer, so I don't know exactly what spring tension you have. So if it works for you like that, you can have them out. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. One last time. And then come all the way back in. Either do your single thigh stretch at the side of the reformer or up on the high bar to finish up, just opening. Try not to go lighter than 1.5 springs. shouldn't feel light. It should feel like that back hip has to work to push the machine out so that it's more of an active stretch than a passive one. And once you've done both sides, you can be all done. Awesome work. Hopefully you felt something.